Hey guys, so today's video is going to be about a piece of technology, but not really in the conventional sense. So today I want to do a quick unboxing and initial first impressions of this. This is the Etekcity, I don't know exactly how to pronounce that brand name, EK6015 digital kitchen scale. I got this from Amazon. I think it was about 10 bucks. It's one of the cheaper kitchen scales you can buy on Amazon. It's supposed to be fully stainless steel and support a bunch of different units, and has a couple of other nice to haves like automatic shutoff and included batteries. So I just thought I would do a quick unboxing of this. As far as why I would get a digital kitchen scale, I think that when it comes to me trying to portion out food and trying to count my calories better and in a more accurate manner in order to try and lose some weight or maintain my weight or whatever the case might be, I just wanted to have a better gauge of how many calories I'm putting into my body on average every day. I have, measuring cups and measuring utensils that I use to figure out volumetric measurements for things like milk and, I just use it for also stuff like rice. But generally, volumetric measurements when it comes to food that's, not liquid can be quite inaccurate sometimes. So one of the better ways to accurately estimate your calories is to use one of these, a digital food scale, because if you look on all your food packaging, you'll see some kind of weight measurement. So for example, if you want to eat potato chips, if you want to figure out how much is one serving, instead of eyeballing it like I used to do, or trying to pour it into a measuring cup, which is just weird, I could instead just put it on this kitchen scale and have a much more accurate picture of exactly what one serving of potato chips is. So yeah, and at $10, this was kind of a no-brainer for me. So without further ado, let's get into it. So packaging, the cardboard actually feels surprisingly premium for the price. So when you open this up, the food scale itself comes wrapped in this plastic. Let's get that out of the way. Yeah guys, here's the food scale. So it says it's made of stainless steel. It feels mostly plastic. The top almost doesn't really feel like stainless steel. It's almost like they put a very thin layer on there, but still it at least looks kind of premium. It's got like a nice brushed metal finish to it. On the back, of course, you've got the battery compartment. The battery's already there. It's one of those things where you have to pull the tab, which I already did, and that kind of activates the batteries. And you have these nice rubber feet that stick out quite a bit, and they let you basically put this on a surface and not worry about it slipping everywhere. So overall, I would say construction build quality seems fairly decent, seems fairly rigid, especially for the price. Definitely can't complain. You do get a quick start guide, but I'm going to go over exactly how to use some of the basic functions of this in just a sec. And there's also this kind of brochure pamphlet card thing. Yeah, that's it for the box. Now let's move on to the scale itself. So here's the scale. I believe the lowest weight it can measure is about 1 gram, and it can generally go up in increments of about a gram from there. So it's really, so it does a good job of being able to precisely measure what you needed to measure. There are a couple of buttons here, and let me go over how to turn this thing on. So obviously press the on button. That's great. So you also have this unit button that you can use to cycle between the units, milliliters, ounces, pounds and ounces, and fluid ounces. I'm just going to stick with grams because I think that's the most efficient for what I need it for. And yeah, the D equals 1G. I believe that's just saying that this can measure in increments of 1 gram. And of course, maximum 5,000 grams, so about 5 kilos, which is I think about 2 pounds, 2 and a bit. But it's been a while since I've done a metric to imperial conversion. But anyway, so there is also a tare function on this, which is great. So for those of you who might not know, a tare function is basically how you would measure something that you need to put in like a bowl or a container first. So for example, let's say you're trying to measure out oats. Instead of throwing your oatmeal directly on the scale, which is really messy and not the best way to do it, you can instead place a bowl on there or any kind of container and then reset the weight to 0. So it automatically kind of includes the weight of the bowl or container and calculates that as the baseline 0. And then you can add your oats and it'll give you the exact measurement of your oats or whatever else you need to measure. So let me show you a quick example of that. So I have this He's Not Here cup. Put this on there. As you can see, it's registering about 36 grams. I just tap tare once. And now that's zeroed out. So if I do want to measure the weight of, let's say this watch, and I can toss it in here. And the 21 grams that it shows me is the weight of just the watch alone. But yeah, Otherwise, if you take it off, you can hit tare again, and now it goes back to 0. As you can see, it was 21 grams with the watch inside. Without the watch, it's 56. So yeah, the tare function is super useful, especially if you're trying to measure things out in a food container or measure things out that might otherwise be just really messy to obviously put on a scale directly. So if I did have to mention one thing that I don't like about the scale, it's that the buttons are not really separate. They're kind of integrated onto the scale surface. So while that does make it look really neat, the buttons are actually flush with the surface of the scale, which is nice. It looks nice from a design perspective, but my main concern with that is that, as you can see, even if I'm trying to press a button, any kind of slight force on the button, like I'm barely touching the button, even though I touch it only slightly, it just registers that on the scale. So I'm a little concerned about exactly how accurate it's going to be, but at the same time, I feel like once you hit tare, for example, it just takes a few seconds. So I'm assuming it then waits for you to lift your finger up off of it and then calculates the exact weight. So yeah, I don't think that's really a problem, but just something I wanted to point out instead of, so the buttons are just kind of integrated on the surface instead of being on the sides or kind of separate from the measuring surface of the scale. Overall, I'm definitely looking forward to putting this to good use. I'm going to be using it to try and get a better gauge of exactly how many calories are in each meal that I consume and how many calories I'm taking in for the day. And if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Overall first impressions, it's good. I still have to use it for a while before I can give a long-term review, but hopefully this should work well. And at only $10, even if it doesn't work, it's not a big deal. Even if you're not using it to track your calories, it would still be really handy when you're, for example, baking something. I know for baking, for example, you have to measure the weight of all these ingredients instead of the volumes, and that's what really helps you get that recipe exactly correct. So even if you're going to be using it for counting calories or using it for baking or just any other purpose around the kitchen, I would definitely recommend just, it's only $10. Yeah, guys, again, I'll leave a link to this in the description. If you like what you see, feel free to like this video, give me a comment, and a subscribe would be amazing. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.